Numerous documents are required for a naturalization application, and gathering them alone takes considerable time. Should any documents be incomplete, not only will the review period be prolonged, but in the worst-case scenario, the application may be refused. In such cases, you may have to wait over 6 months before reapplying. This is precisely why accurately preparing and submitting documents, and promptly responding to any requests for additional documents from the Legal Affairs Bureau, are key to a successful naturalization application. Hello. I'm Rico. For those considering naturalization, are you overwhelmed by the sheer number of required documents and unsure what to prepare? The documents needed for naturalization vary depending on whether you're a full-time employee or run your own business, whether you have family in Japan or not, and even which Legal Affairs Bureau you apply to. Since everyone's situation is different, today I'll explain the required documents for various scenarios. I think you'll understand better if you watch while applying this to your own situation, so please subscribe to the channel, turn on the good button, and be sure to check it out until the end. This form is a checklist of documents required for naturalization applications. Remarkably, it lists a total of 67 different documents. This checklist is the document provided by the officer when you visit the Legal Affairs Bureau for naturalization consultation. The contents and format may vary slightly between different legal affairs bureaus. However, the content and types of required documents are fundamentally the same. Therefore, this time, using this checklist, we will explain what documents should be prepared, by whom, and when. Furthermore, at the end of the video, we will also explain important points to bear in mind when submitting the prepared documents to the Legal Affairs Bureau. Now, let us proceed to the checklist. The first section pertains to documents requiring your own completion. As these are documents you must fill in yourself, rather than those needing collection from various organizations, I shall omit explaining them today. From here, we shall explain the documents required for acquisition. First, we shall begin with documents concerning nationality. The certificate of nationality is obtained from the embassy or consulate of your country of origin. This is required for all individuals, and a Japanese translation must also be prepared. As some countries stipulate a validity period, please ensure you verify this. Regarding the passport, all passports are required, including those that have expired. Next are the documents concerning your family status. The documents required about yourself are your birth certificate and, if married, your marriage certificate. If you have ever been divorced, you must also prepare your divorce certificate. Additionally, for the proof of family relationship, you must submit a family list showing the relationship between yourself, your father, your mother, and your siblings. Documents concerning your parents include the parents' marriage certificate. If your father and mother are divorced, the divorce certificate is also required. If you have children, the birth certificate for each child is also necessary. Should any of these certificates be written in a foreign language, please also prepare a Japanese translation. When reviewing documents regarding residential history, you will need a residence certificate for all household members that includes all details except the My Number and resident registration code. If you have moved frequently, you will also need a residence certificate of removal. If you have family members or siblings living with you in Japan, prepare residence certificates for all co-residents. Additionally, submit a copy of your residence card. If you have co-residents, prepare copies for all co-residents. Next, regarding documents pertaining to driving records. If you hold a driving license, you must submit a driving record certificate covering the past 5 years, issued by the Automobile Safety Driving Center. Please note that should the review period be extended, you will need to obtain and submit a new, up-to-date driving record certificate. Please take care to avoid any traffic offenses until the review is complete. Furthermore, you must also submit a copy of both sides of your current driving license. If your driving license has expired or been cancelled, you will need to submit a driving license history certificate, so please ensure you have this document ready. Next, we will review the documents relating to assets and income. If you are married, these documents must include information not only about yourself but also about your spouse and any dependent family members living with you. Dependent family members living with you refers, simply put, to individuals with whom you share the management of living expenses. Examples include married couples or parents and children sharing living expenses within the same residence. Let us now examine the documents concerning income. For those employed by a company and receiving a salary, the most recent employment certificate and pay slip prior to application are required. In some cases, submission of an employment and salary certificate issued by the employer may be requested. Furthermore, for self-employed individuals operating a business requiring a license or permit, submission of a business license is mandatory. For example, this is mandatory for those in industries requiring permits, such as restaurant owners. Similarly, directors of corporations or other legal entities conducting business requiring permits must also submit a business license. Furthermore, please prepare a certificate of registered matters for the company. This can be obtained from the Legal Affairs Bureau. Next, regarding documents for assets, those who own real estate must obtain and submit a certificate of registered matters for the land or building from the Legal Affairs Bureau. If you have savings or deposits, please submit your bank passbook or balance certificate. Furthermore, looking at the documents listed in the Other section below, if you are renting your current residence, you will need copies of the property lease agreement and the tenancy confirmation notice. If you are supporting family members residing outside Japan, you will need proof of remittance to overseas or a remittance request form. So please ensure you have these ready. Individuals receiving pension benefits must submit either a pension benefit notification or a public pension withholding tax statement. Those receiving benefits such as child allowance or childcare leave benefits must submit documentation proving receipt of benefits. Furthermore, individuals holding assets exceeding 50 million yen outside Japan require a document called the Overseas Property Statement. Please ensure you verify the documents submitted to the tax office. Next, regarding tax documents, if you have dependents living with you, you will need to prepare their documents in addition to your own. Looking specifically at the documents required, these differ depending on your employment status. This time, we will explain by dividing into 4 cases. First, let's confirm your employment situation. The first case applies to those receiving salary from a company who are not required to file a tax return. The second case applies to those similarly receiving salary from a company who are required to file a tax return. The third case applies to those working as self-employed individuals. And the fourth case applies to those who have established and are managing a company. The required documents differ for each case. For those working at a company falling under the first case category who are not required to file a tax return, submit the withholding tax statement for the most recent year. If you changed jobs within the most recent year, you will likely have received withholding tax statements from multiple employers. Please ensure you prepare all such statements. Additionally, you will need either a certificate of taxable income or a certificate of non-taxable income for the most recent year's resident tax, along with a certificate of tax payment for the previous year. Next, for those working at companies falling under the second case and requiring a tax return, in addition to the withholding tax statement, resident tax assessment certificate, and tax payment certificate. The income tax payment certificates, Parts 1 and 2, for the most recent 3 years and the tax return for the most recent year are also required. Furthermore, for those operating as self-employed individuals as a third case, the resident tax payment certificate, income tax payment certificate, Parts 1 and 2, income tax return, plus consumption tax payment certificates, Part 1, for the most recent 3 years, business tax payment certificates for the most recent 3 years, withholding tax calculation statement for the most recent year, and receipt notification. When managing a company in the fourth scenario, in addition to personal documents such as the withholding tax statement, resident tax payment certificate, and tax payment certificate, documents relating to the company you operate must also be prepared. The following are required: prefectural/municipal resident tax payment certificate for the most recent fiscal year, business tax payment certificates for the most recent 3 fiscal years, corporate tax payment certificates, Parts 1 and 2, for the most recent 3 fiscal years. Furthermore, in addition to a copy of the most recent fiscal year's corporate tax return and balance sheet, a copy of the most recent fiscal year's withholding tax ledger, a copy of the corporate withholding tax calculation statement, and a copy of the most recent fiscal year's payment notification are also required. If you have cohabiting family members, documents relating to assets and income, as well as tax payment documents, must be submitted for all individuals. Please ensure thorough preparation to avoid any omissions. Next, we shall proceed to confirm matters concerning social insurance premiums. The documents required for all individuals are the health insurance card and the employee pension insurance premium payment certificate. Should you have cohabiting family members, their documents will also be required. Regarding this payment certificate, you will need either the Nenkin Taikabin postcard sent annually by the Japan Pension Service, or a printed copy of your pension information obtained online via Nenkin Net, covering the most recent year. Furthermore, only those meeting the relevant conditions will need the following documents. If you are currently enrolled in National Health Insurance, you will need the National Health Insurance Premium Payment Certificate for the most recent year. Individuals aged 75 or over paying late-stage elderly medical insurance premiums require the most recent year's late-stage elderly medical insurance premium payment certificate. Individuals aged 65 or over paying long-term care insurance premiums require the most recent year's long-term care insurance premium payment certificate. Those running a company should submit the most recent year's receipt for employees' pension insurance premiums and health insurance premiums, etc. Next, we will look at the Other section. Those currently attending school should obtain a certificate of enrollment from their institution. For all others, prepared documentation proving your final educational attainment, such as a diploma or certificate of completion from a vocational college or university. Additionally, those who have passed the Japanese language proficiency test or hold qualifications will need to provide their certificate of passing or transcript. Furthermore, if instructed by the responsible officer at the Legal Affairs Bureau, you may be required to submit 3 to 4 snapshots. Finally, we shall outline 4 fundamental points to bear in mind when submitting documents. Firstly, as a general rule, please prepare 2 copies of each document. One copy should be the original, and the other a photocopy. Photocopies must be produced on a 4-sized paper without enlarging or reducing the original. For documents such as passports or driving licenses where the original cannot be submitted, please prepare 2 photocopies and bring the original with you at the time of submission. Secondly, regarding translations. Documents written in a foreign language must be accompanied by a Japanese translation on a 4-sized paper. The translated document must include the translator's address, full name, and the date of translation. Any person capable of providing an accurate translation may serve as the translator. Thirdly, should there be any documents or certificates you are unable to prepare, you must inform the Legal Affairs Bureau official of the reason and the circumstances preventing their preparation. Fourthly, the documents you have prepared will be verified at the Legal Affairs Bureau during your initial consultation. The required documents vary depending on the individual. In addition to the documents explained today, other documents may also be required. In such cases, please prepare them according to the instructions provided by the Legal Affairs Bureau. Furthermore, if there are any deficiencies or omissions in the documents, the Legal Affairs Bureau may issue additional instructions. In such instances, please carefully review the content and prepare or amend the necessary documents by the specified deadline. Today we explained the documents required for naturalization applications in various scenarios. How did you find it? For instance, the necessary documents differ depending on whether you have family in Japan, whether you are an employee or self-employed, or whether you run a company. Numerous documents are required for a naturalization application, and gathering them alone takes considerable time. Should any documents be incomplete, not only will the review period be prolonged, but in the worst-case scenario, the application may be refused. In such cases, you may have to wait over 6 months before reapplying. This is precisely why accurately preparing and submitting documents, and promptly responding to any requests for additional documents from the Legal Affairs Bureau, are key to a successful naturalization application. Please ensure you fully grasp these points to facilitate a smooth naturalization application process. For those overwhelmed by the sheer volume of required documents and unsure what to prepare, or those unable to take multiple days off to visit the Legal Affairs Bureau, we offer support with naturalization applications. Furthermore, for those wishing to learn more about naturalization application documents or the Japanese language test, we provide free consultations. Please feel free to inquire by adding our official LINE account as a friend via the video description section. Furthermore, you can download the Naturalization Eligibility Checklist and the Self-Assessment Sheet, 7 steps to determine eligibility for permanent residency free of charge via our official LINE account. Download instructions are provided in the video description. We encourage you to utilize these resources as you prepare your naturalization application. We hope this video proves helpful. Until next time.